All right, guys, we are reading from Who Was Frederick Douglass? This is going to be chapter 3. I got a new shirt on for a new chapter. I hope you guys are ready. We're going to dive right in. Chapter 3 is the title, and it says, Becoming a Man. So we're going to see what Frederick Douglass did to become a man. All right, we're reading from page 31. While Frederick was in Baltimore, Captain Anthony died. This meant Frederick was now the property of Miss Lucretia and her husband, Thomas. It wasn't long before Lucretia died, too. When Frederick was 15, Hugh and Thomas Auld had an argument. Thomas demanded that Frederick be sent to him where he was now living, in the run-down port of St. Michael's, near Frederick's birthplace. This was bad news for Frederick. Thomas Auld was a stingy master. Frederick and the other slaves had to beg and steal for food, while bread and meat sat spoiling in Master Thomas's storehouse. Turn the page. Frederick sometimes let his master's horse run off just so he could go after it. The horse liked the neighbor's pasture, and Frederick liked the bread he got from the cook there. See the horse in the picture? Master Thomas knew what Frederick was doing and decided that city life had ruined his slave. He was spoiled. To make Frederick more obedient, Master Thomas hired him out to a brutal slave breaker named Edward Covey. Mr. Covey rented a farm 7 miles away on the Chesapeake Bay. Mr. Covey made Frederick and the other slaves work in the fields in all weather, sometimes until midnight. Mr. Covey doesn't sound like he was a really nice guy. So look right there. You see the pictures with the horse and Frederick letting it run just so he could chase it to get away. And then he's in the house getting food. All right, let's see what happens next. Turn the page. It was never too hot or too cold. It could never rain, blow, hail, or snow. Too hard for us to work in the field, Frederick remembered. So they worked in the rain, they worked in the snow, and look at that. It doesn't look like he had on the proper clothes to be working outside either. He wasn't treated nice, and nobody else was treated nice either. That slave master, he was really mean. One blazing August day, Frederick and a few others were separating wheat from straw. Suddenly, Frederick, dizzy and shaking, collapsed from the heat and hard work. Covey kicked him and told him to get up. When Frederick couldn't, Covey hit him over the head with a slat of wood. Blood ran freely from Frederick's head as Covey continued to kick him and shout. Finally, Covey left Frederick lying in the dirt. That wasn't nice at all. Look how he treated Frederick. And guess what? Frederick wasn't older than 20. He was a young man. He was in high school probably, if he was going to school. Let's turn the page. Not long after Frederick was tending the horses when he felt a rope slip around his ankles. Covey meant to take him down, but something in Frederick snapped. He had been worked like an animal long enough. Frederick grabbed Covey's throat and didn't let go. It was rare and dangerous for a slave to attack a white man. After nearly 2 hours of fighting, Covey gave up. He never laid a hand on Frederick again. The fight with Covey was a turning point in Frederick's life as a slave. I was nothing before. I was a man now, Frederick later wrote. His desire to be free grew stronger than ever. So you see the picture right there? Frederick stood up for himself. In most cases, if a slave ever did this, they would be killed immediately. So this wasn't something that you would get away with. But Frederick, he got away with it, and it changed his life forever. Let's turn the page. On page 38, when Frederick's year with Covey was up, he was sent to work at the nearby farm of William Freeland. Mr. Freeland worked his slaves really hard, but not past sundown. He didn't whip them. He provided good tools to work with and enough food to eat. Frederick made some of the best friends of his life at Mr. Freeland's. And before long, he was spending his Sundays and 3 nights a week teaching them to read in secret. Though slaves risked 40 lashes on their bare backs for doing this, Frederick's school grew to include more than 40 eager students. So Frederick, not only was he helping himself, he helped himself to read, and then he taught other slaves to read. And it just said that slaves would get in trouble for reading, but Frederick didn't care. He wanted everybody to have knowledge and to be free in their mind, just like he was. He was really helping others. By the time he was 18, Frederick decided to make plans to escape. Not wanting to leave his good friends behind, he shared his ideas about running away. 4 friends agreed to come with him, and on Easter weekend, they planned to steal a canoe and paddle up Chesapeake Bay about 70 miles, then follow the North Star on foot until they reached a free state. Frederick wrote out fake passes for himself and his friends, giving them all permission to visit Baltimore. Let's turn the page. Frederick signed the passes from William Hamilton, who owned one of his friends. Easter Sunday arrived, and early in the morning the men went to the fields as usual. Frederick had the strange feeling that someone had given them away. And sure enough, 4 white men arrived on horseback. They tied up the 5 suspects and dragged them 15 miles to jail. Wow, so somebody told on Frederick and told about his plan, and they didn't even go. They ended up going to jail. Well, what happened after that? We're going to see. The only proof of the slaves' plan was the passes Frederick had written. He had quietly thrown his into the fire before he was taken away. He whispered to the others to eat theirs with their morning biscuits. After the Easter holidays, Frederick's friends were released from jail by their owners and taken home. Frederick remained in jail another week, but then he got a lucky break. We're going to see what happens. It says, Master Thomas, turn the page. Master Thomas arrived. He was sending Frederick back to his brother Hugh in Baltimore. Master Thomas said that if Frederick learned a trade and behaved himself, he would be fine. He would be free at the age of 25. The promise had but one fault, Frederick later wrote. It seemed too good to be true. So in that story, in that chapter, we learned about Frederick going to Baltimore. And he experienced a lot of things. He made new friends, and he was teaching them how to read, teaching them how to write. And then he came up with a big plan of how he was going to escape. But what happened? Right, somebody told on him. They told that he was going to escape. And did they get to go anywhere? No, they went to jail. But Frederick, he was smart. He ate the passes that he had written that would really have gotten him in trouble, told his friends to do that too, and they threw those away, and then he was saved. He was in jail, and his old master came back, and he gave him another chance. He said, I'm going to send you away, and if you just do the work, you don't make any trouble, you will be free at age 25. Now, that would have gotten a lot of people excited, but Frederick had a hunch. He had a thought that, I don't know if that's true. That sounds too good to be true. Well, in chapter 4, we're going to find out if Frederick was right. I hope you're ready.